This is possibly the big one. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan is considered by most Trekkies as the best Star Trek film in the entire franchise. Will the panel agree? What do you think? Is this the best Trek film ever? Welcome to Just Great Movies as Trek December continues. This is one of the best, if not the best, Star Trek film of all time. Tonight on Just Great Movies, Trek December continues. We're talking about Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, released 4th of June, 1982, runtime of 113 minutes, $12 million budget. This film had a $12 million budget. Made $97 million back at the box office, did fantastically well, and if you came here expecting the full movie, that's not what we do on this channel. We talk about just great movies. The name is on the tin. On the panel tonight are an elite bunch of Trek fans. So I want to welcome all of you onto the show tonight. We've got Gamer, Istophobos. How do you pronounce your name, Admiral?
I go with Admiral Teague. It's just Teague.
There we go. I got it right. I've just thought I'd ask, just in case. And everybody's favorite, fully lubricated, fully adaptable. He's got a port for all occasions. Our favorite Randy Robot, Z3PO.
There she is.
And welcome to everybody in the chat. We've got Melvin there, Argentum, Franco. Who else is in there? I'm sure we saw Manuel Greel as well, and a whole host of other people. Melvin Deeply, and I'm sure that Franco gave us a super before we came to air tonight, but it seems to have disappeared, completely disappeared out of the comments. So thank you, Franco. I would also like to say thank you to our Brian, who's curated all the screenshots tonight, and he's done a fantastic job of it. Also, hello to Sword in the Storm for joining us tonight as well. We will crack on with this absolutely fantastic film, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. I remember in 1982 being in the cinema, watching this movie, and when that shot into view, the entire audience cheered. The crowd absolutely erupted. This had been a long wait from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and these two movies are like chalk and cheese. Anybody like me see this originally back in 1982 in the cinema?
Yeah, I saw it.
I did.
Week after my school ended, and my experience was the same as yours. Packed theater, and you mentioned the cheering. That brought back a memory. Yeah, the entire theater cheered because everyone was waiting for this matchup.
Cool. Anybody else?
I saw it at the theater multiple times. It was always packed with a very enthusiastic audience. And, sometimes it was so loud during the movie, even it was hard to hear. People were that happy to see and very unbashful about showing their enthusiasm. It was great.
Why not? What about you, Admiral? Were you there on the day?
Oh, let me tell you, this was the second Star Trek movie I saw in theaters. As a real young kid, I saw Star Trek 1, and I more or less comprehended it. So now I'm in like early middle school, and I see this movie, and it was like your whole life leads up to this confrontation. And I think more at the beginning of the movie, people were anticipating a more cerebral movie, and that there was actually in the movie theater, I remember there wasn't a lot of cheering until the Kobayashi Maru scene plays out and the door opens and the backlit Kirk comes out, and then the roof blew off the place. But there was like little like gasps and little like moments of applause when our heroes showed up on the bridge. When we saw Sulu, people were like, ah! And when we saw Uhuru, people were like, ooh! And then when we saw McCoy, and then, everything goes wrong and it looks like it's over, and then, open her up, and the door is open, and there's William Shatner, and everyone started screaming. And then for the rest of the movie, it was just sustained pandemonium, only quiet enough to hear the dialogue, and people hung on every moment. The last 2 times I saw this movie were in this century, though, with William Shatner hosting it. So what would happen was I'd see the movie with 4,000 Star Trek fans in what would be a Broadway-style theater, once in York, PA, and once here in New York City. William Shatner comes out after the movie, so my experience for the movie, just for that, would be 4,000 Star Trek fans or more are screaming and saying every line of every word of the movie. You do not get up to leave during the filming. It's exactly 2 hours long. This is the perfect movie. And when it ends, you have a short intermission, and everyone's just screaming their heads off. And now we're all 50. And, you go to the bathroom, you grab a beer, you come back, and for 2 hours, William Shatner blows your mind.
Nice.
That was my last 2 times.
I
highly recommend the Wrath
when
of
you
Khan
go to these kind of events. That's exactly what you want. You want that fantastic experience, and it's great seeing films like that with a bunch of Trekkies, and you're all in that mood, and you've all got that same kind of flow going. Happy birthday to our very own Melvin Deeply. It's my birthday. Have a potnacker to celebrate my continued existence. Many happy returns, Melvin. Nice to have you with us for another year. Lots of people joining in with the birthday cheers. Gamers there. Manuel, Sword, MC, Crikey, even our Z there. So many happy returns, Melv. I hope you have you've had a fantastic birthday. And I love this graphic. This is 1981 for sake of argument. That's the level of technology here. But the graphics, the on-screen stuff was absolutely, it's just outstanding.
16 colours on the screen at the same time. What the hell?
Done by ILM. And has anybody ever noticed a lot of adverts on social media for a T-shirt with that very same graphic on it lately?
No.
You know what?
Mine's been.
I would buy it
with it. I would buy it.
I haven't noticed it because I don't own it yet. I would buy this T-shirt immediately.
Me too.
It's awesome, and I would just say this: they call this movie the first true CGI. This is the first CGI of the movie. Let's be to be surely technical. The first movie with CGI is 2001: A Space Odyssey, because we see them keystroking onto a real word processor, and the computer does generate those. I'm serious. That's the definition of CGI. So the first CGI is in 2001. This is the first movie with CGI as we know it. And the Genesis Planet scene is coming up. I won't even tip my hand. But this already is beyond anything we saw, even in Star Wars. This is a little bit in back. Maybe some of this is Luke's, binoculars on Tatooine, that bottom part. But this is above and beyond anything we see in Star Wars, too. And they've got a couple of movies out there already.
Yeah,
when they
to the Death Star. You're saying, Z?
When they showed the sorry.
Oh, it's all right. I thought you chipped in then, and I was talking at the same time, but I think it's Ista. So go ahead, sir.
Yeah, when they showed the tactical view, and you can see the bubble of space representing the neutral zone, you could hear the oohs and ahs in the theater because we hadn't seen anything like that before. All of the tactical views.
It really
had a lot of
it in the future.
Yeah.
Well, in the 3 dimensions too, you see the Z-axis on the Enterprise, and like say the 3 dimensions of space, because
a little
foreshadowing. The neutral zone,
yeah.
and you think on a 2-dimensional plane, it's like a wall, but that's not how space works. So as they approach it, you see the ellipse type shape of the neutral zone.
Yeah, and a little foreshadowing, and also Kirstie Alley, hot as you know what, man.
A solid 10.
Yeah.
Did anybody see those pictures what I put on social media a while ago, where she's in that like a sort of negligee with the Star Trek badge on it, with her Vulcan ears on?
Oh, well, by the way, it's in the elevator, man.
Here's the thing: the original plan on her was the reveal would be she's Spock's daughter, but the circumstances of Star Trek 3 made that a little bit impossible, but I don't want to tip my hand. But that's what they're thinking as they're writing this. Saavik is supposed to be the daughter of Spock, and the Romulan commander that we end up kidnapping by mistake in the episode Enterprise Incident.
That would have been a far better play in the grand scheme of things, but it's kind of because she is actually half Romulan, isn't she? She's not all Vulcan. That's why she gets
They
a bit emotional.
buy
at
that
times.
back, I believe, but this Savick still is. I don't know if she is after 3 and 4 when we move to Robin Curtis.
I don't know.
think
Do
she
you know
is.
she didn't? Kirstie Alley didn't enjoy playing Lieutenant Savick.
What
So
are you
when they came
talking
to
about?
making,
She
Pardon?
was reading the wrong sci-fi novelist, okay? If she had just
No.
stopped reading the Scientology stuff.
She
Kirstie
didn't
Alley was a
like.
massive Star Trek fan, and she did her audition as Spock.
No, she didn't want to be in any sequels. So when they approached her to make Star Trek 3, she made her fee that high that she knew she'd get turned down. And apparently that's etiquette within acting circles. When an actor doesn't want to reprise a role, they do this so they get told no. It's the
No one gets
thing
fired.
for politely declining, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Well,
You don't get fired. Leonard Nimoy had tried a version of this before the motion picture, and then they just realized they should give him the money. And the quick thing there is everyone who dies at that station are people. Well, the commander was supposed to replace the Spock character, and he's like, no, I want the Sonek character played by someone else and killed, and I want that actor killed on screen too.
Do you know what brought about the Kobayashi Maru training simulation? Because all the scripts kept getting leaked and people were saying, oh, Spock's going to die. They put this in purposely to throw people off, to mask what was going to actually happen at the end in the last act. So it's a bit of a red herring because people go into the cinema thinking, oh, well, Spock's going to die. They see the training simulation and everybody getting killed off. And then they go, oh, that was it. And then they're in for a big shock later. Does anybody know how Harve Bennett managed to make this film on a $12 million budget?
Yeah,
he reused all of
Reused
the
all
models.
this, all the reused scenes from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, like the 3 Klingon battle cruisers approaching Vija, which is now in a training simulation. But the pyrotechnics were good in this. Oh, look at that. Sulu's gone very slitty-eyed all of a sudden.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
You know what?
Oh
He was a
my.
very good Sulu actor who had not gotten a smartphone and embarrassed himself at this point. So, like, you're seeing him and you're like, it's Sulu! Oh my God, it's like Studley Spaceman Sulu! He's the coolest! That chick had better watch out for him. He's one smooth guy. That's how good of an actor he was.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
still the badass sword fighting Sulu at this point. Nobody knew his predilections, and he wasn't saying stupid stuff publicly yet. So.
Have you got
Can we
hearing
just take a
problems,
moment
mister?
to
Before he
admire
said stupid
the
stuff,
redesigned uniforms?
Oh, the
which
Monster
are-
this
Maroons,
was a very
A
smart move.
massive step up from the
Wasn't it
onesies
just?
they had in the motion picture.
Oh, the space
Well,
pajamas from the motion picture. They absolutely hated wearing those costumes. And we did
I
mention this
still
last
like
week.
them though.
None of them
Yeah.
work. Kirk's got 1 of 5 uniforms that work in that uniform, maybe 2. His dentist-like uniform that he wears sitting in the command chair with the short-sleeve white shirt is okay. And his Robin's Egg blue Admiral's uniform that he takes off when he drops down to Captain, because Captain is a job. That's why we get the confusion of he's Admiral, but when he's on the chair, they're occasionally addressing him as Captain.
Let's see, Rear Admiral Bide. He's a Rear Admiral, isn't he? Is he?
Only our Navy has Rear Admiral. You guys have Commodore. In our Navy, you are called Rear Admiral Lower Half, the dirtiest rank in the military.
The only Commodore we've got around here is 64, unfortunately.
It
And this is great. I love this reveal. You think everybody's dead, and you hear, okay, open her up. And then we get to see Admiral Kirk walking
Yeah, they
in
didn't
onto the
pull
bridge. And
anybody.
that for me was like, oh my God, I am so glad they've not killed everybody off. Because I was totally confused at this point.
Yeah, this is when the confusion ends and we realize they're all going to be okay. One after another, they're jumping up and greeting Kirk, and we see Kirk and we realize it's going to be okay. This is when the roof blew off the theater. People were confused because remember, Star Trek 1 is a very Star Trek-like tale that is very slow to unfold and has no action scene. So right up front, we have an action scene and a rug pull that's really well written. And then we have one of the most restrained performances by an actor who's always called hammy and over the top. He's like, prayer, Lieutenant Mr. Savick. The Klingons don't take prisoners.
He's
very
not though.
restrained.
It's just the impressions of him are hammy and over the top, and over the years, people confuse that with his actual acting.
Exactly. So this
Has an
this hits
unfair
twice as hard though.
Have you ever seen that? Is it Comanche White Apache? That is bad acting from William Shatner. That is probably the worst film ever made. If anybody's ever seen that, oh crikey! But
His
yeah,
Esperanto movie's a little worse.
Kirstie Alley really didn't seem to have much range. I know she's playing a Vulcan in this, but she really didn't seem to have much range at this point of her career. And it's interesting because if you boil this film down to its absolute basics, and it's not really a complex film. Because it's just delving into themes of aging and mortality and facing your past. Because contrasting Kirk's midlife reflections and his sort of midlife crisis, because he turns 49 in this film, right?
No, he turns 50.
I'm sure it said 49. But anyway,
he's 49 for part of it, I guess.
49 or 50, it don't matter.
He's 34. He's 35 in Wrath of Khan because it's season 2. He says his age, and it's 15 years later. He could be 49 or he could be 50, but that's your time frame. It's 15 years out from Space Seed.
Yeah.
So anyway, remember, Kirstie Alley was a housekeeper and an interior designer. She moved to LA and went on a bunch of game shows in hopes of getting noticed, and this was her first big breakout role. So she wasn't really a formerly trained actress, but she did show later on to have pretty good decent comic timing. So
she's good that's why they make her a Vulcan, right? This is a great role for a model who, like a fitness model, like, or something, who's never done any acting before. It's like, it's cool. Your character really doesn't have any emotions. You can just speak the words. But this whether he's 49 or 50, I would just point out, this is where the first crack at Star Trek in the Cage already has Captain Pike, which is why I think that was a terrible Star Trek story with a terrible Star Trek captain who is not just too far along. Like in the Cage, Captain Pike is already broken down, having a drink with his doctor, saying there's other things to do with his life and he's sick of Starfleet. You don't want to watch a show about a man who doesn't like his job or love what they want you to want to do. William Shatner is the reason Star Trek work. Watch The Cage. They do this scene kind of almost the same right up front.
He's allergic to Retinox 5 because normally Dr. McCoy gives it to people of his age. Apparently in the future you could get an injection, you don't need glasses, but Kirk's allergic to it. What a coincidence. Next they'll be giving out pills what give people kidneys.
Yeah, or they could just transport new eyeballs into your pockets.
It is kind of good though, because I don't think they envisaged reusing those glasses 2 movies later.
I thought that was a nice twist, really. He got $100 for him, which I guess in 1980s America was quite a good price for him, to be fair. Would have got more for them if the lenses were intact, of course.
Hey, this ship is upside down, man.
It is. Yeah, ILM made this, and there was some slight confusion. It ended up being upside down. This is the first time we see a Miranda class in any Star Trek movie. And that model got reused so many times. In fact, I saw Benjamin Sisko flying out the back of one of those on the premiere of Deep Space Nine, if you remember. Because it model of the story to Wolf 359, didn't it? If you remember.
Does it read you your rights before it fires at you?
You never know. We don't have Miranda rights in this country. You just have to put something wrong on social media and you get taken away down over here.
You have the right to be phasered. You have the right to be blown up.
I'll just point out that this date, the serial number on the bottom of the Reliant, height of the U.S. Civil War. So it's a little statement of division.
And do you know something? This causes a bone of contention amongst fans. Where's the deflector dish?
Well, it's a science vessel.
It's on the above-mounted. The Vico is the science vessel. This is an exploratory scout ship. It's been retest for the science mission. It's got a much smaller crew. There's Paul Terrell. We see him in a bunch of stuff. He's a great actor, and of course Chekhov, whose career has advanced about as far as it should, 1 rank in 15 years, because he's about the dumbest guy we know on our crew, but he's a great guy.
If they actually had
Presumably
the
it
deflector
doesn't,
dish, they might have actually detected that there was 4 planets in the system and not 5.
Yeah, not a
no
very
kidding.
good science team, is it? Really, they're on the wrong planet. Hello.
Hello.
But
That's
it was
one
nice to
that's
have
on
a
stellar
familiar face
cartography.
on this
Yeah.
ship. You know, you've got a member of the original crew who's there.
Two.
And
You have two. Mr. Kelso walks up.
And you've got this guy here, you've got Chekhov, right, to give you that bit of familiarity, to sort of lead you into another clue. And they're in constant touch with this lady here, Dr. Carol Marcus, who's behind a very secret project, the Genesis Project, where they're going to recreate Phil Collins in a laboratory. Well, that's a different story. And doesn't this young chap here look like somebody? I don't know. There's a bit of a twang there, isn't there? Of
Hey,
I don't know, a certain admiral.
he's the guy that got the SETI Alpha maps from the gas station that were really old, and that's why all of this stuff
Yeah.
happened.
I think they mischarted them in TOS, and the only thing you have is not quite headcanon. This might raise up to, in-world explanation. They said the Enterprise was the most advanced ship, the furthest out anyone had ever gone, and it was just like they disregarded the charts and mischarted the system, or they met their advanced stuff was messed up. Remember, Khan heavily sabotages their ship when they're there. They may not have undone all the damage. And
It's
he
the
was
23rd
as good at
century, for
sabotaging
God's
as well.
sake. They're not dealing with ZX81s. They've got fancy computers and everything. How can they get it so wrong? It's a nice plot point. It's a bit of a twist there for you. So Chekhov and Terrell beam down to whichever SETI planet they feel like. Is it 4 today? Is it 5? Could it be 6? Who cares? We don't care at this point. And anyway, cargo containers. And, look, massive. No, it's not massive. It's Moby. Anyway, they're on board the SS Botany Bay. And any TOS fan or any fan worth their salt will tell you this ship has been in Star Trek before. Space Seed, anybody? If anybody remembers that particular episode, great episode. Anybody particularly enjoy that episode starring Ricardo Montalban?
Oh, it's a
I
great
very much
rewatch.
enjoyed that
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, I don't think anybody who finds their way to this video is unfamiliar with that.
Well,
But
the
episode that this most reminds me of is Balance of Terror from season 1,
how so?
which it's where he's facing off against the Romulan commander played by...
When everyone's blind in a nebula, is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, the director of that episode actually stated that he'd seen the 1957 film, The Enemy Below, and admitted later, obviously, it's the same story. But then the director of this, Nicholas Meyer, has also confirmed explicitly that this story is based on The Enemy Below.
He did
The
indeed. It was his
submarine
only
movie with
second
Robert
time
Mitchum.
out. Second time out in the directorial chair. And I think he did a damn fine job of it. I'm glad they brought him back for Star Trek 6. Anyway, it's not a good day to be
fourth
in
or
the
fifth
Federation.
movie, though.
Pardon?
It's his 4th or 5th feature film, though. He had a really huge hit. Here's the reason why he got this job. Awesome with other people's characters. He made a Holmes movie with Anthony Hopkins called The 7% Solution about like a Keith Richards like Holmes, man. And it is absolutely fantastic. And that's what got him this movie. He did the
Time After Time is what got him this movie.
Oh, you know what? It might get one of the actors a Star Trek role too. Maybe the time traveler might come back.
H.G. Wells, yes.
Do you know when?
Maybe he's Dr. Bashir's uncle.
When this guy took his mask off initially, everybody, like a couple of people, thought it was Rod Stewart, and that always made me laugh in the cinema. It does.
Nice.
He did. Ricardo Montalban did kind of feature Rod Stewart there at that point, but everybody went. A lot of people went to see this expecting a Mr. Rourke type character from Fantasy Island. There's a cute little picture somewhere online. It was Ricardo Montalban's birthday while they were filming these scenes in the cargo containers, and somebody made like a little remote control tattoo. Somebody had like stuck a little blow up doll thing of a small chap and stuck Hervé Villechaise's face on it and wheeled it in. And somebody kept going, "Bath," from behind a convenient corner.
Oh no!
I would have loved to have seen that in real life. If you
Yeah.
look it up, it is available to see on Google.
Ricardo
but
Montalban actually had to request a copy of the episode Space Seed because he'd forgotten how he played Khan.
You're right, he did.
Whoa,
and he
I
did a
had
good
heard
job
that.
of it, to be fair. He did. Gamer, you're rather quiet about this. What are your feelings and thoughts so far?
Well, the reveal, I mean, we already know we're dealing with the Wrath of Khan, but I like the reveals in the cargo container here, where you see the Botany Bay, belt next to the old books, and then Chekhov, like, holy crap, no, it's time to go. And Captain Zarell's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? It's like, no, we've got to go. And then you step your prior slide there with all them standing in the sand, and it's like, the holy crap moment. So
That is good.
During the holy crap
Zing, you
moment,
were
though.
saying?
Yeah.
Zing,
A
you were saying?
little behind the scenes info when they put out the call for the people to play Khan's Supermen, or what we call augments now. The men had to be over 6'2", and the women had to be over 5'10", and they had a little bit of trouble finding enough women at the time to fill those roles.
Officially
Yeah.
concubines in this particular
Yeah.
role. Isn't it funny how Khan looks like he's well showered and well washed, and all the rest of them look like urchins?
Definitely.
They're going to spend all their time taking the Koresh clean.
Anybody fancy a SETI Alpha 6 sand eel or 5? Or is it 4 today?
Earwig,
Do we know?
Can I just throw something out there that was cut from this
Why don't
movie
you?
that we just passed? Okay. At the moment before they beam out, it's like, oh no, look at Captain Terrell. He is on one knee with his hand extended out off screen. What they have done, and they did this early enough in the movie so that they didn't have to leave much of a trace. This is the only fingerprint of it. There was a cradle with a baby in it. And they're like, what the hell is this? And he's like, oh, no, we have to leave. He's like, well, what about this baby? Chekhov's like, it's a fucking monster. Let's get out of here. So at the end of the movie, that baby was going to be with Khan when he destroys the Reliant, to put it mildly. So people right away were like, get that out. It is too dark. And that is the only vestige of it in the movie. There was a cradle in the room that Terrell was like, what's going on with this baby? And like, who knows if maybe the baby breaks his arm because it's an augment. But
yeah,
so
Manuel Greil in the chat also
cut.
points out that Chekhov never met Khan, and he didn't in Space Seed. So when he
Yeah,
goes,
yeah.
I
But
never
that
get
is
a
explained in Space Seed. It's explained in Space Seed if you think about this one. When they look at when the three most important Star Trek actors, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, are on the bridge, they're watching him, and they're like, why? Who are they? And they're like, could they be criminals? It's like, why would they give them, the equivalent of like a nuclear submarine? Like, why would they give them that? Okay, could they be, augments? Could they be, these human husbandry created sort of, and they were supposed to be from the eugenics time. And I want to point out, when Space Seed dropped, less time had passed since the end of World War II than has passed since the end of Star Trek Enterprise for us. People believed that Austrian mustache dude was alive somewhere, and that was what the story's meta was. He's Space Hilter. So all of this stuff is is going on at once. And so Ricardo Montalban must remember the line for this movie was, beyond the final frontier lies vengeance.
Anyway, sand eels make people very susceptible, very good for brainwashing. And Khan is going to stick a couple in their helmets. Have you ever had anybody trying to stick anything rum in your helmet, Z?
Sorry, what did you say, Trav?
I said Khan is going to stick something very rum in their helmets. Has anybody
Are
ever
you
tried
talking
to
about a
stick...
wet willy?
No. Has anybody ever tried to stick anything rum in your helmet by perchance?
Oh, trying to stick things in my ears.
Oh, well, that's different. And it's not a good day to be a Starfleet officer anyway. And look at these guys. It's just all very nonchalant. I like it how the muscle-bound moron there, when he's got Chekhov's helmet, he's like sloshing this little slug thing around.
Well, you know
and
what
it
I like
drops
about
on
that
the
creature?
faces,
Seth?
and away
I'm
we
sorry,
go.
let me just wrap that
creature.
Chekhov up for you. Can I just wrap Chekhov up really quick? This is why Chekhov knows Khan, and Khan knows Chekhov.
You seen it on
We
video?
see
On a rerun?
no, he's reading the entire ship's manifest and all the blueprints on God mode. We see him reading super fast, and he's like, bang, 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 and like it's the schematics, it's the crew manifest, it's everything. And when Khan picks him up, he says to him, "I never forget a face." So Chekhov is on the Enterprise, but he's not in the bridge crew yet. And it was someone that Khan saw for that's Khan's intellect, though. That's why they're not replicants. That's why they're augments.
Eraserhead says this part is awesome, and Star Trek scares you. Yeah, it did kind of freak me out. Argentum says this part freaked me out as a kid.
It freaked me out.
Yeah, no, and it still does to this day. And Harv
It was
Bennett
inspired by aliens, wasn't it, guys?
Reusing scenes from Star Trek: The Motion Picture again, and that is a great way to get yourself onto the roster of making Star Trek films. Because when Harv Bennett approached Paramount and said, I'll direct your next Star Trek movie, and they said, can you do it for this much? And he says, hell, for that kind of money, I'll make you two. And that's exactly what he did. And I love this scene when Admiral Kirk comes aboard. And he's like, I had a wee bout, but Dr. McCoy pulled me through. A wee bout? Shore leave.
Like Scott, you old space dog.
Yeah. And this is a classic example. One of the only few costumes to make it from the motion picture are the radiation suits in engineering.
Hey, that guy looks like old Scott Bakula standing behind him, and look at him in the radiation.
It does.
Yeah, probably like a cross between a young David Lynch and an older... oh, crikey, the guy from Talking Heads. I forgot his name now. Scottish.
That could be Archer's son.
Hey, you never know. It could well be. And anybody noticed Tony from Witch Mountain in that scene?
Yes.
He was stood there waiting.
Yes, and he's in the rifleman too, isn't he?
And he has to go at Kirk, doesn't he, in the director's cut? Well, if the Admiral can't see that, then he's blind as a Tiberian bat. Midshipman, you're a tiger. If anybody remembers that scene. And I love this. When Savik's about to take the Enterprise out, McCoy just coyly whispers to Kirk. He says, would you like a tranquilizer?
Something I love about that scene as well.
Kirk's non-verbal reaction.
Just hold on a sec, Admiral. Z, you were saying, mate?
Yeah, go back one. There's the one scene when they're on the bridge. There's something that I didn't notice from the motion picture, but appears in this
smoking?
one. No, there's a lot of background chatter with people talking to different departments and planning things, which you didn't see in the previous original series. It was a lot of background chatter. It really gave a more immersive effect to what was going on the bridge.
Yeah, they're working authenticity, like you're on a working ship.
Mm.
And anybody else notice the no smoking signs on the bridge?
I saw them in the transporter room.
Yeah. Yeah, again, reuse of scenes from the motion picture. And anybody remember this model in the motion picture?
Yeah, but it's upside down.
Upside down, yeah.
It was the Starbase dock. Starfleet headquarters upside down.
And I think
They'll
that's
never notice.
Well, we did.
How much better does it look than what they give us today, too? That Starbase looks awesome, and there's no CGI in these sequences. The CGI is coming, kids. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
And the Reliant looks awesome upside down. What are they talking about? Upside down is the way forward.
Is it truly upside down, right? We never got confirmation from the director. The designer said he signed it upside down. We don't know that the director didn't look at it and say, no, and flip it over.
Well, they passed the book on for that one onto somebody at ILM, and I guess they regret nothing because we don't. One thing that always made me
there's no upside down
here is
if
because
you turn it upside down, it looks like the Enterprise did,
and you've got these monitors. Right, we've got all these flat screens and whatnot now, and yet look at that. It's a massive.
Yeah, they're watching Babylon 5. That's
It's Bester. Yeah, it's Al Bester. Wow.
Yeah, I could believe it's a hardwired high security thing because this is a very, very, very messed up experiment. We're making a de facto Death Star without admitting it and without the audience getting it until after the movie, really. And we had a good explanation as to why the Federation would accidentally fluke their way into making a Death Star. So
Well,
I
best of
can
intentions.
still.
They've got honest and genuine intentions. Franco says in the chat, is there an upside down in space? No, there is not. You make a very valid point there.
As I was trying to say several times before.
I know.
It was
I know.
reoriented.
There's
How
a lot
about
of people
that?
talking over each other tonight. So if we can all just be a bit patient and just kind of wait. Eraserhead says B5 was Koenig's best performance. Anybody agree with that? Anybody enjoy Al Bester in Babylon 5?
He was
enjoyed
It's his
particularly
best
sinister.
performance.
Anyway, you were saying, Z?
He was particularly sinister in Babylon 5.
Yeah. Did anybody unfortunately watch that film after I recommended it last week? The one where he made his debut as a leading man in the movie Moontrap, which is one of them kind of movies that it's like a VHS hell movie.
I tried to watch it. I couldn't
It's bad,
get
innit?
through it. It was pretty bad.
I
It
took
is,
a
it's pretty
pass.
bad.
I saw it and I'm like, no.
The only saving grace is Bruce Campbell. But Teague, you make a valid point there, because even though the Federation have got really good, honest and pure intentions, David Marcus rightly says, this is a weapon, it can be turned into a perverse weapon. And it's true. Like with many things science gives us, it has the best of intentions, but yet it is corrupted and perverted into nefarious means. Just going back onto that one there, just look at the blank expression on Chekhov's face. He's got the brain slug. The sand eel. But there he is.
It's his
well
post
done.
face hugger moment, right? The
Yeah.
SETI eels are inspired by Alien, and it was a great take on it, right? It's not too Alien. They don't ape the scene. They apply the same sort of creepiness to Star Trek. The eels climbing in their ears, absolutely fantastic, freaked everyone out. And now, he's a zombie, and we're not quite sure, and he doesn't know it. He's been bitten by a zombie.
When the sand eel comes out of Chekhov's ear, they actually made a 4 foot massive ear for it to
it was
puppet
not
to
the most
come out of. Oh,
You know what? When they kill the SETI eel, though, listen to the screams. I believe it is the same screams from the transporter accident in Star Trek 1.
Probably, you never know. Interesting scene here. Kirstie Alley, I think she's trying to tempt the Admiral. She's trying to, I don't know, make him lower his shields a little bit because the whole Kobayashi Maru is just playing over and over. It's living rent-free in her head. She didn't do very well. She doesn't know at this point that Kirk's the only cadet to ever pass it with flying colours, and the only reason he did that is because he cheated. So anyway,
he didn't pass it. Everyone passes it. He solved it. He's the only one to solve it. There's an important difference there. It's not big for this movie, but going forward in Star Trek lore, solving it rather than passing it, you cannot fail the Kobayashi Maru. We find out as soon as we see it over. He's like, you don't fail the Kobayashi Maru. It's a test of character.
Potato. But it all becomes relevant a little bit later on. Carol Marcus ain't too happy about the fact that the Genesis experiment is being taken away from them at the Regular One laboratory. But then who sort of turned around at this point and said that Kirk was the de facto Genesis commander himself? It's never actually stated, is it? He's kind of been attached to it through action. And,
he's head of Starfleet operations.
He's telling her
the head of Starfleet operations.
He's telling her
That's
he's not
why.
taking it away from her. And, he goes to Spock and he's like, I'm going to kind of take over. I'm going to pull the rug out from under you a little tiny bit. And there's a whole thing about, well, I'm a Vulcan. It doesn't really matter about that. He says, the ship's yours. Go for it, mate. No problem from me. And yet again, this is another little bit of a tidbit towards sacrifice. Spock's sort of giving up his command at this point to help Kirk investigate what's happening at Regular One. And he gives this big speech. And did anybody notice the sheer look of disappointment on Savik's face at this point to say she's a Vulcan?
I didn't notice
we're starting a habit of the Enterprise sort of coincidentally always being the only ship in the area or the only ship that's not busy, or well, we got to take this because it's almost like there's no one else around ever. But we're willing to forgive it here, especially.
It must come with the name Enterprise because it happened in Generations, didn't it, with the Enterprise B when it went out on its maiden voyage?
Yep. I would be afraid to be on a crew that was on an Enterprise.
Yeah.
The Alpha
First launch,
Quadrant's
because
dangerous.
we're gonna half of us are gonna get killed here.
Interesting
Okay.
note here, Judson Scott was kind of like at the beginning of his career where he was starting to get leading man parts. And this was around the time, did anybody remember The Phoenix?
Yes.
Oh, that was trash. I mean, looking back at it now, it really was trash, And
it was canceled in just weeks.
It was, wasn't it? It was that good. And I remember
9 or 10 episodes tops.
I was lucky to be around when that was on its first run in North America. I was actually living in Canada at the time. But he went on to other things, and he was always sort of like cast in minor bit parts where he was like a semi-posh villain and stuff like that. More recently, the last thing I kind of saw him in, he was in Blade, if you remember.
Yeah, he's been in 3 different generations of Star Trek. And the reason he's uncredited in this movie is because his agent demanded top billing for his quote significant role as Khan's loyal lieutenant. Paramount wouldn't grant it, so they waived billing entirely. But he didn't realize waiving billing means you're not going to get any credit whatsoever. So he doesn't.
And did you notice
when he fired that agent
when he went into Next Gen and the episode he was in there with Merritt Buttrick as well, if you remember.
Symbiosis. It was a Wrath of Khan reunion. Yeah.
Identify for retina scan. Kirk, Admiral James T. And then you get this really good CGI, like a demo of what the Genesis device actually does.
This was the coolest thing anyone has ever seen in the movie theater ever.
No one knew how to process it. You're like, holy shit! How did they do this? Is this a cartoon? I'm sorry. I forgive me for my language. Oh my gosh! Is it a cartoon?
It was more impressive than Star Wars. Like
it was.
We
for what it was at the time.
Yeah, people bootlegged this sequence, and we're just watching the Genesis loop over and over again.
Did you notice, like, there's a halo there? That's the Genesis wave. And that's going to be very important later.
Yeah,
so that's what you get. That's what you get when the Genesis device is being delivered. It's reformatted an entire moon into a living, breathing planet that we can put whichever life forms we see fit to deposit on it. So,
very mid 20th century, doesn't it?
Yeah. But then we get a nice shot. Look at that, the Reliant. That looks so imposing and threatening. And yet, it's a smaller ship than the Enterprise. James Horner's score is so fantastic for this film.
It's absolutely
perfect use of his sort of naval and maritime themes that he has often in his music.
If they were going for that hornblower vibe, which like a lot of people state that they did, they certainly pulled it off with this one. It was absolutely fantastic. And if you notice, every now and again, you get a subtle twang of Battle Beyond the Stars coming through a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It's one of the best Star Trek soundtracks ever. It's shocking that it's not Jerry Goldsmith. When you mentioned before when we saw the title card and it said Star Trek, everybody goes wild for Wrath of Khan, and the music is just so perfect for that. And when we see the Reliant, now that it's in enemy hands, the augments have it, if we want to call them that, as it comes on screen, we hear what I could only call perverse circus music with a satanic bent to it.
Now, the woman sitting at the helm, that is Laura Banks, and she's made an entire career and made a living by doing Star Trek conventions.
Hey, we see now that she's making that work, then let her do it, because a lot of these people, they get cast aside, don't they, once they've appeared and stuff like this.
I found this undercut the movie. He's a genius, and he's letting a woman drive.
She's got some great stories about Ricardo Montalban, and she wrote a book. It's called The Wrath of Blonde.
There you
And
go.
she talks all about the
Kirk,
making of
my
this
old
movie.
friend, the Romulan, the Klingons have a saying, it is very cold in space.
Well,
And you get some great little one-liners there. But he is absolutely fueled on vengeance. That's the only thing in his eyes right now. And look at Judson Scott's character, Joaquin. He's a bit of a smug git, isn't he, really, at some points in this film? But have you noticed how the Enterprise looks really like grotty? They got rid of the Aztecing. Didn't
Yeah, we
do
talked
a
about that in
particularly
the last film. That was the first
yeah.
thing I noticed, Trev, is it doesn't look as good as the first film.
Well, they removed the Aztecing. That's why the model here doesn't look as good as what it did in the motion picture. But
it's supposed to look beat up. It's 15 years later. That's the one thing we have to keep in mind, and that was the thing that was sinking in when we saw our heroes. Yeah, it's 3 or 4 years later, but the thing is, they have been allowed to be the age they are now. In the motion picture, they were only 3 years older than the show. Now they are 12 years older than the motion picture, and where all characters are the same age as the actors playing them now.
It's not a good day to be on the Enterprise. Yellow alert and all that. The Chambers coil emissions were normal. Kirk had a bit of a gut feeling, but by the time he has to raise shields, it's a bit too late for that. Khan's already given the order to fire, and it's not good. Straight for engineering. If you didn't know where engineering was on the Starship Enterprise, that's where it is there. Just track it all back from the nacelles. There we go. Engineering's the first casualty in this firefight. And it's really interesting how they've got all these cadets. They're not going to handle it very well. They've never been in a situation like this. Of course they're going to panic. Of course they're going to run a mile. And what always baffled me about this particular scene here, you get this blast door coming down, and there's like a little bit of a cutaway there, but there's not at the bottom. How does that go through the horizontal warp chamber, right, without causing major issues? That's always sort of a little thing in the scene what kind of niggled it for me. Hey, we've
I
seen
believe
that
they're
before.
deeper in the heart of the ship, and the hull is breached closer to the edge. The warp core is buried as deep as you can inside your ship, although the nacelles, the struts for the nacelles seem to come out of the warp core. That seems to be universal in all Starfleet ships, but what's going on here is this is further inside the ship, and these are collateral explosions is the only thing that makes sense.
Main energizers out. I love this. There's Scotty. He's just, we're just hanging in there. And obviously they know where to shoot, Khan's not thick.
Or
he's
do
not
they?
thinking. He got to read all. Remember, in Space Heat, he got to read all the Star Trek manuals.
He did.
So this
Right,
shows
and he's
his
read
genius
the
that after
refit
all
manual.
these years, even with the refit, he knew exactly where to hit him.
Of course
He has
would.
access
would have
to the
done his homework,
refit
wouldn't he, on
specs,
all
I
the
believe.
refit specs.
Yeah.
He's got access to them on the Reliant. But it's
So
just
what he
insult to
did-
injury. He just keeps chucking volleys at him left, right, and center. And there's some great pyrotechnic displays in this film. And that guy at the back there, he must have really gone over expectation for filming, because look, he's just launched himself into the wall completely there. Nice one. An extra 10 points for you. But Kirk's absolutely shocked to discover it's Rod Stewart. No, it's not. It's Khan. He wants all the materials relating to Project Genesis. Genesis? What's that? Don't insult my intelligence, else I'll set my little man on to you. I'll kill you. That'd have been funny if, I'll tell you something, wouldn't it have been just an absolute delight if Ava Lachey's was in this? But no, that's probably just me. We'll catch up
Captain,
with
it's
the chat.
Nick Knack.
Yeah.
Now, in the script, he has gloves on both hands, but when he was sitting in his chair, they were getting ready to do the scene. He was sort of fidgeting with his fingers, all Captain Ahabby, and he decided to pull one glove off, and that's how he did the scene, and they decided to go with it.
Yeah, there's
Did
a
we see
deep
him
vein
remove
of
the
Moby
glove,
Dick
right?
running through this movie all the way through. And I like how Kirk's a little bit embarrassed to wear his glasses, and he's like, damn it. Just like McCoy would. And he sticks them on now just to read a readout on the display. Gamer, you're very quiet. Your thoughts so far, sir?
Well, like I was saying with the Enterprise, even with the refit and talking about Khan would have access to the refit data on the Reliant, it still shows his genius.
Yeah,
That
he's a skilled.
I've
He's
got an
two-dimensional
inferior ship,
thinking.
and
He's
I'm
not
taking on
experienced.
I'm taking on the peak ship for the Federation
Mm.
with not even pause. But to that end, this scene, starts going into his smugness. He's arrogantly a genius, and he thinks he can't be beat. That's where Kirk's going to come back and use it against him.
Well, yeah, that's his Achilles
Right,
heel,
'cause-
isn't it?
Right.
It's the whole
Can I
hubris
just-
thing, isn't it?
Yep.
Z,
Got
what are
1
your
second
thoughts
on
so
this one,
far?
guys?
Just hold on a sec, mate.
Sure.
Z, what are your thoughts so far on this? Because you've been rather quiet too.
Absolutely bloody gripping, mate.
Is that
Sorry, what
it? Just gripping.
is gripping?
What's he gripping?
Wouldn't you like to know, Sailor?
Oh,
But no,
you had
I'm
to
really
rub it
enjoying
to.
this. This is
Good.
by far the best Star Trek film ever made.
See, I got told off air last week by producer Brian, who did a cracking job of the slides, and he says you didn't give Z enough airtime. So, and I did inadvertently cut you off a few times last week. So I do apologise for that, sir. I thought I'd tell you to your face.
Aw, you're very lovely.
Yeah, but yeah, you stay there, droid perv. But yeah, the Reliance circling around, and I like this. You can see Khan conferring with Joaquin there, and Spock's like, he could be pressing any button on that bloody thing, but they've got a bit of an ace to play, really. The prefix code to prevent a ship from their own undoing, and Spock's got that code. And he instructs the Reliant to lower its shields. And Joaquin, he's like, I can't do anything about it. He's not bothered about the shields going down. He's more bothered about the repercussions from Khan, because he's a bit of a stern one, is old Khan.
Yeah,
He's gonna
failure's
lose
not
his,
good in Khan's eyes.
Yeah. He's the bloke you don't let down.
Correct.
So even though they've only got a few shots, sir, yeah, they make good use of it, and Kirk tries in vain to try and score some ground back in this battle. He takes out, right, the impulse crystal, and yet the ship can still operate on impulse power. I always found that a bit of a niggling point, or am I being too technical about it, Ista?
I think that's the termination point of the warp core, which is why they don't have warp power, but the impulse engines are actually.
Well,
go
that's
around
actually
the-
down as the impulse drive crystal, isn't it? That's the top cap of the warp chamber.
Yeah, which is why they don't have warp. But
But if you look at that model, look at that is ILM Greeblies at their finest. But just look at that, the detail on that for 1982. That is just great work from ILM. You can't fault
Yeah.
ILM.
Superior in a lot of ways to the stuff we see today. Pick your
very
science
much.
fiction franchise that, here we are 40 years later, and the stuff we had when we were kids was better.
Yeah.
I wonder which model tank kits those Greeblies came out of.
Ooh,
The prefix code, Khan must have missed that part in the manual, by the way.
Yeah.
So not entirely a genius.
He's very smart, but it's two-dimensional thinking. That's
And
what
he
it is.
doesn't
That's what
know
let him down.
Starfleet. He knows the specs of the ship, but he doesn't know Starfleet regulations so well. And he
I
was
love
a
how-
military commander, not a space commander.
Yeah. I love how they redressed the Enterprise bridge, just moved a few choice bits around. And then they did all their scenes after all the stuff had been done on the Enterprise. But
Yeah.
this is really good use by Harv Bennett of not wasting money. He makes use of what he's got. But Ricardo Montalban in this, he just is acting sublime.
He
He's
almost
a man
died.
of singular purpose.
He almost
True.
died in this scene because a 50-pound light 3 feet away from him fell off from the ceiling and
That-
almost hit one of the girls and him. And he
Ooh.
just she has a story about telling his son-in-law, "Hey, this is where your father-in-law almost got killed," but Ricardo just walked it off and kept being a professional.
As you do.
Yeah.
But, oh, crikey. Poor old midshipman Peter Preston, Scotty's nephew, for those who didn't know. Yeah, and my younger sister, crazy to get to space, Admiral. But he stayed at his post while all the other trainees ran, which is brave and honourable. He was a good kid, but it's Tony from Witch Mountain. I know we mentioned this last week, you know? I just thought, how ironic, you know? You've got Tony from Witch Mountain, and he did a good job in this. He wasn't in it long, but I've noticed, is it Ike Eisenberg? Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But he does a good job of like milking the role, shall we say? You know, I think he does the whole thing at conventions and whatnot, doesn't he?
He's
Trying
got
to
a
make
good
a living
Brady
out of
Bunch. He's got a good Brady Bunch face, you know.
Yeah, we never got the Brady Bunch over here. Oh, it's Ike Eisenman, isn't it? I remember now.
Yep.
But yeah, Brady Bunch. That was an you know, and that was never a thing over here. To be fair.
Oh, then you missed the opportunity to. Well, I won't say, but
You don't
we're
so
trying
much
to keep
watch
it
as
clean.
you,
This is a
you
family
don't so
show.
much watch as you experience the Brady Bunch. Trev, do you have just like 1 second here? I just want a couple of things I made points on.
Yeah,
The
sure.
reason why he's able to prevail, and the reason why Chekhov has pointed out that Kirk is the one taking this over, is because Kirk has no superior in Starfleet. It's the president. He is currently head of Starfleet operations, and that's why he's overseeing this new crew on the second refit of this Constellation class ship. Now, Khan's recall will give him everything he needs, but we've had 2 refits. So my feeling is he's been studying the schematics, and we need to understand his attack. Khan, this is a fight that shows us something about both opponents. I want to point this out. They knew exactly where to hit us, and the idea is he didn't go after weapons. He didn't go after the bridge. He went after propulsion to cripple them in space. And he doesn't take out their weapons, all right? And what he does is he's firing to gloat. It is all about, and remember, he can go back to the station. He has passed on a chance to have the Genesis information already. He killed those people to find Kirk. So now he's going to squeeze Genesis out of Kirk. He doesn't know for sure if Kirk knows it, but he's going to try anyway. And, you know, Khan, obviously, he can just look at Kirk and judge his, like, heartbeat and stuff like that by looking at him close enough and see, like, he's a human lie detector anyway. Not that he's that great, but here's the thing. Kirk is arrogant in the sense that he is being quoted regulations about communication by Savick, and Spock stops her. That's because the regulation she's quoting was written by Kirk. He's head of Starfleet operations. You don't tell the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You don't say, General Patton, sir, that 6-shooter isn't regulation. You know, you don't do that. So Kirk was arrogant, and he learns. Now, Khan, his arrogance is that he does not try to kill his enemy. He wants to gloat first, and if he can get Genesis, he'll get it. But he'll double back to the station and figure it out. He wants it fast if he can. But this was all about gloating and then killing Kirk. And Kirk, just because of holes in Khan's plan, he uses that pin code to deactivate the shields and gets a few shots back. If Khan had just killed him and moved on, he would have had the Genesis device in the movie, and Star Trek ends here.
Yeah, I
he
can just see
wanted to put
Dr.
down the
Evil's.
flesh, didn't he?
I can just see Dr. Evil's son going, "Just kill him! Don't create some elaborate plan where he can escape."
Kirk
Anyway,
only
we
shoots
get,
to kill when he responds. Very quickly, I'm sorry. When he responds, he only fires at the bridge and weapons. Note that. He doesn't care about propulsion. He fires at the bridge and weapons. He's going to kill Khan, or he's going to take away his ability to respond with weapons. Kirk is a better tactical commander, but only because he learns from his arrogance. He's as arrogant as Khan right now when he gets jumped for the first time. But now we're over at Regula 1.
the two sides of a coin, aren't they? They're the polar opposites of each other, but pretty much the same person. Whereas Khan's genetically enhanced. Kirk's sort of like got the right stuff. He's developed it over a very long career. But like you say, yeah, he wants to strand the Enterprise in space so he can draw it all out and get his pound of flesh, but do it in a slow manner, what suits him best, because it's all out for revenge. At this point, we get Chekhov back and Tyrell, and it's all for an ulterior motive, but we know what's happening. And this, for me, has to be the best transporter scene in the entire franchise. This is the longest beam sequence in any Star Trek film, including the transporter accident in the motion picture. But they're beaming down into the center of the regular planetoid, a Class
It's a
D
super
planetoid
difficult
of
beam in.
unremarkable ores. But there's a reason for that too. And they get there, and they're met by these guys here, and phasers down. First thing that comes out of everybody's mouth. And that's a bit odd, isn't it? You're reunited with your long-lost, well, not so long-lost son, but purposely kept out of the way of your son so he doesn't go following his dad around the galaxy. Kirk ends up punching his own kid. Where's Dr. Marcus? I'm Dr. Marcus. Then
Come on, we've all dreamed about punching our own kids. It's just we live in a polite society.
My dad just did it, man.
Yeah, Kirk's lived the dream several men have wanted to do over time, and he's reintroduced to Carol Marcus, played by B.B. Besh, which is Samantha Mathis's mother, if anybody
No
knew
way.
that.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
She's gorgeous, though. She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
She's hotter than Samantha Mathis, in my opinion.
I don't know. I sort of had a thing for Samantha Mathis.
She's not bad at all, but this woman has a smoldering sexuality. Samantha Mathis is more girl next door who's really pretty.
Yeah, well, Pump Up the Volume did it for me, and then she followed Christian Slater into Broken Arrow,
3 or
didn't
4
she?
movies. She's
Yeah.
in a few of
Samantha
his
can
movies.
smolder
Did they
a
marry
bit
for a while?
herself.
I don't think so, because she was who was she with? Oh, River Phoenix, wasn't she? She was
Yeah,
dating
she
River
was,
Phoenix.
Well, he's free
He was
after
one of his
1991.
Mm.
She's free after 1991 of dating him, unfortunately, for all of us.
Did anybody notice this unfortunate mistake in cinematography and effects? Tyrell shoots his phaser, and the guy vaporizes before the beam even hits him.
No, because
There we go.
The destruction was so amazing. He gets stripped down to a skeleton before he disappears. The most horrible phasing in all of Star Trek, followed by, like you said, an amazing beam out where they're like, they didn't do much of that in Star Trek 1. They botched it, so they wanted to show it and reestablish it. And it's great. And by the way, we've seen some of these props before on the show and stuff.
Yeah,
And
they're using the wrist communicators from the motion picture.
Oh, yeah. In the regular one lab. In
This
the regular
set
one
is
lab,
made-
did anybody notice the blinking lights, the rotating red beam
yes,
displays?
they had the neon light machine. And
Yeah,
also
and
in this place...
that was also in Star Trek 5 as well, which we're not
Yes.
featuring on
And
Trek.
and in
TNT.
an episode of Enterprise I watched
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
But
And
by the way,
Stargate SG-1.
Oh,
This-
and
Oh, yeah.
it was also in the episode of Voyager where they finally made contact with Voyager in the Delta Quadrant. You remember that Pathfinder project in the laboratory there? It was also there. And it was in
Commander
Airplane
Barclay?
2. Yeah,
yes, it is.
Airplane 2, where Kirk sort of parodied himself. And did
Yeah.
somebody say Last Starfighter? Because it was in there too. The blinking red light thing. Also, we get to notice an early formation of a bit of a friendship here between David Marcus and Savick. Because they sort of like unintentionally bond as friends, don't they, in this particular movie? But this is
I
a
would talk
great
to
bit
her.
here.
I would find a way to talk to
doubt that one
Savick.
bit. I don't doubt that one bit. You
Fred,
sound a
can you-
red-blooded male if ever I've heard it.
Can you
But
go
this
back
is
a
great.
slide?
Khan is goading Tyrell into killing Kirk. But as the SETI Alpha 5, 6, or 4, or 7, whichever planet it is this week, because nobody knows for sure, you start losing control because madness starts to form as the creatures grow larger. They wrap around the cerebral cortex.
Trev,
So,
can you
Terrell,
back up one image?
yeah, sure.
See that conical shaped thing on the container?
Mm-hmm.
That is from the kids' Apollo space capsule toy chest. It was
Yep.
used on ET and also several of the TNG um, episodes. It's from the Little Tykes collection with the decals painted over.
Do you
That's
know
how you
the
save money, right?
Yeah. You know the cylinder to the right of Tyrell's foot there as we look at it? Does anybody recognize those? You know
They
that
No.
could
tube
be
what's
just
like
soda
inside?
gas.
Oh, I
could be the
thought it was
gas
a
for soda.
fleshlight.
No, no.
There's one of them on set too. It's in Shatner's quarters.
Anyway, do you remember when they used to do the transporter tests in Next Gen? And they used to come back all melted and stuff. They were the
Oh.
actual reused props, what they used to use. It was
Mhm.
also used as, the symbiosis episode. The pods, what were containing the Elysium, wasn't it? I think it was called that particular drug.
Yeah.
They were one of the storage containers for that. So it.
Oh,
the
wow.
amount of-
Everything from Wrath of Khan.
So,
came
yeah,
out at
Merrick-
once.
Merrick Buttrick must have taken that to hide his drugs in, and then when he got on TV,
Can I make another quick point about that set? If you, I don't,
Yeah.
you don't have to go back on the slide, but here's one
It's
of the
okay.
things. I watched a interview with the set designer. Look at the door above it and the pattern. There had been a huge order of fluorescent lights for all the offices at Paramount when they were making the movie, and the Star Trek people walked past the garbage bins with the cardboard containers that held the rod lights, the fluorescent rod lights, and they were freaking fascinated by them. And so this packing material sits on the guy's desk for a few weeks, and what they did was they molded off the packing material and the cardboard, the entire Genesis cave walls, where it's not natural, where you see the blast marks from the Federation team that took 8 months in environmental suits to make this cave. Those are all cardboard mold from the boxes and the packaging for fluorescent lights that were sent to Paramount.
That is good. I like it. Make use of what
And who
you've
hasn't
got.
felt this way?
So Tyrell, he's got to the point now where he's gone crazy. He won't kill Kirk. He's just rebelling against Khan, and he just does away with himself. But that sets off the other SETI Alpha 5, 6, 7 brain slug or Sandeel, and Chekhov starts losing it. And let me just now.
It
he hasn't
only
done
likes
that.
augments and dark meat. It passes up on it eats everything except Chekhov.
Oh, well, maybe they like borscht. You never know. But like I say, they did a 4 foot wide ear to have that the puppet of the brain slug coming out of there. Kirk dispatches it, and that is an awful scene because it like you say, it shrills and it makes these awful noises. But it's a good day to
We're
be
happy it's
calm.
dead, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But Genesis has beamed away. And I like what they used to make this. There's actually a beacon, like an aircraft beacon in it, where that big light comes on in the middle.
Mhm.
Actually, an aircraft beacon light. And it was that high powered, they had to use a mesh over the camera to stop it distorting the view. So it'd be like, instead of it being a massive lens flare, it was dispersed before it actually hit the lens.
Lens
But-
flare, the good kind.
No, the good kind. Any film that relies on excessive lens flare to sell it, or TV shows for that matter, are not well made or written. But anyway, here we go. This is like the money shot for Khan. I'll leave you as you left me, as you left her, marooned for all eternity at the center of a dead planet, buried alive. And then we get the Khan, and it echoes all the way out of that planetoid. And I love it how they drag it out with the reverb and a bit of delay going around.
Fans
But,
complained about that, but it's great.
It
It
is.
doesn't matter that there's no echo in space. Just shut up. This is not Alien, even though
It's
we
a
just had like face
moment.
huggers.
You use theatre of the mind, boys and girls. Use your imagination. If you
Well,
there's
somebody
echo,
behind
and
you who's
they're
screaming.
not in space. They're in a corridor, and there's certainly echo wherever there are air and solid surfaces for the sound
And
waves.
we
to
could
bounce
also
off.
say the third
One-
echo is it's retransmitting to Khan.
One thing that always
Feedback.
bugged me about this scene, right? Kirk's having a heart-to-heart with Carol Marcus, and Chekhov is obviously conscious because he's holding that cloth up to his ear hole, right? So he's heard virtually every word because he's still got one good ear. So he knows all Kirk's dirty, dirty secrets. That he had a bit of a fling with Carol Marcus. She got knocked up, and she had Kirk's son. So we get to see the Genesis cave because he thought that was Genesis, but it wasn't. What she did in there, she did in a day. Can I cook or can't I? Oh,
The original Genesis torpedoes sold for $100,000 at auction.
wow, I can imagine.
And
Do you know
when,
why do I miss out on all these auctions?
when this
I feel
scene
left out.
came up in the movies, there were a ton of again one of those a lot of oohs and ahs. Because
Yeah,
up until then, we always saw static matte paintings.
yeah.
This was a dynamic one with moving light, and it
Well,
was
you've just reminded me there. I missed out an
Byron.
opportunity to come out with a good one-liner. When you said static there, I could have mentioned that on the build-up to the attack on the Enterprise. Let them meet static. But I thought this was such an impressive combination of like matte photography here, because when this scene came on in the cinema, everybody like went, "Oh, whoa!" And it is breathtaking. We can't fully appreciate the scope and grandeur of this particular scene here. But if you think about it, that cave must be absolutely epically massive. Because you see down into the cave itself, it kind of makes the Grand Canyon look like a piece of pigeon crab, you know?
And it's developed some kind of a sun.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
they must
especially
have
when they're on the
stuck them a
ledge.
nice light in there.
I was gonna say, especially when they're on the ledge looking out, and then they cut to that. Like I say, the scale is just enormous. You know,
Yeah.
you wonder how much of the inside of this planetoid is it really taking up?
Yeah,
A
all of it.
lot.
And
A
again,
lot.
it was
I would
just
point
the
out
initial
this is the plot
theatrical
hole.
run.
Did you
This is the
notice
plot
all
hole.
the
we have the perfect planet. This is
you
when
notice,
Spock describes the perfect Genesis planet when he says it's just a lifeless rock in space, which is the thing they're
Unremarkable.
looking for but can't find.
and the waterfalls coming down the side of the inner of the cave. I thought that was a really nice touch. I thought it
yeah.
really sold that scene. But anyway, Reliant pops up, but there's a bit of a plan been formulated. If hours were days or minutes, if we go by the book, like Lieutenant Savick. Yeah, obviously talking in code, but it wasn't that hard to fathom out, to be fair. But Reliant turns up at Regular One Space Lab to destroy the Enterprise. Where is she? Well, just look at that. That just blew me away. I mean, ILM, just the
They really
level.
outdid themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, ILM at that was peak ILM, I think. You know, for practical effects, matte and overlays and animation of matte cells, it's just wow. Just look at that scope and scale of the goddamn thing. It's absolutely impressive. But
we'll
yeah,
revisit this little cliff again in Star Trek 3, by the way, and it'll be a lot less pleasant. but
Yeah.
we're going back to this cliff. It's a little
it's not-
Gilligan's Island, but I like this scene.
it's not Richard. But she's got this niggling suspicion. She wants to find out what Kirk did on the Kobayashi Maru. She's not let it go, really.
And her
but-
lipstick is very fresh, man.
Yeah.
When
what's
you
up
get
with
a
She
minute,
those-
just
when you're-
nipped off and
is that
powdered
your-
her nose.
just
There's no
Can you
Vulcan
finish
lip.
your thought on this?
There's no
I'll
trace
tell-
of powder on her nose at all in this scene. But Kirk kind of
She powders
reveals
it on the inside, Trev.
yeah, but Kirk reveals what happened. You know, McCoy says you're looking at the only cadet to ever get through the Kobayashi Maru simulation, and that's
Yeah,
because
I want to
he
address that when you get a
reprogrammed the
chance, okay?
Simulation. He's
That's
the
not,
only cadet
that's
in
not
history.
exactly what happened. That's not what the movie tells us. This is a major Star Trek thing. if I could have 1 minute, I would just like to expand how I see this.
Go for
Anyone
it.
who's been to college, okay, this is the deal. He's taken the test several times, correct? They say that. There's a lot going on in this scene, okay? Remember, David Marcus is an unprincipled mad scientist who has sabotaged the Genesis device with proto-matter anyway. So he's like got no right to shame his father for being a little unethical. And he's not. This is what they say. McCoy goes, "You are looking at the only cadet to ever solve the Kobayashi Maru scenario." And they said to him, someone says, I think Spock, as I recall, your final solution or your final scenario for this was very innovative. And he goes, "I got a commendation for original thinking." And they say, "What did you do?" And he says, "I changed the conditions of the test." And David, who is a mad scientist who has built a Death Star, goes, "He cheated." He has no moral authority to say that. What happened was Cadet Kirk, who is the leading cadet in his class, as we know from Star Trek's second episode, Where No Man Has Gone Before, he was the leading cadet in his class. The Ben Finney episode hammers that home. He is a level 10 intellect just behind Spock. He approached his professors, asked to take the test again, and this is beta canon, not movie, but this part is, the thing he changed was, what if the Klingons feared and respected the Federation captain? And they allow him to effect the rescue with no violence. He took the test over and over with permission. He did not cheat, and he got permission to change the conditions of the test. He did not pass because he passed the first time. He kept asking to solve it, and he was indulged because he was the greatest cadet of his class and maybe that they had ever had since Jonathan Archer.
That's fan fiction bullshit.
Yeah,
that's not fan fiction. What I said from the dialogue, though, in the dialogue, he says he took it several times. Everyone who's gone to school knows that you can ask to take a test again, and they say solved, not passed, and they say your original solution, your final, way of doing this. I don't want to use the solution word after the word that rhymes with vinyl. Okay, your solution to this was, pretty interesting. He goes, "I got a commendation for original thinking," and David scoffs he cheated. Do you give someone a commendation for original thinking? His professors approved of him retaking the test. They say to him, "You trashed this room like over and over yourself trying to solve the scenario," and he says to Savick, "No one fails the Kobayashi Maru. It is a test of character." Does the captain go in there with no regard for his crew and try to attack the Klingons? Does he try a rescue and fend the Klingons off? Does he just negotiate and let everyone die? And then aboard, a tribunal assesses the character of the captain. You do not pass or fail. This is how you wash out of Starfleet Academy. It's a test of your character and split-second command decisions, as we see in Of Bread and Circuses, where we see the washed-out Starfleet captain, Merrick.
You're really taking that shit personally, man.
Yeah, just a bit.
Everything I said is literally in the movie. I left all beta canon out of that one. This is extremely important in the most important Star Trek movie, and to me, the greatest ever movie. So,
Atom
I'm
Gray
good with
says, "Does your Tribble ever get that not so fresh feeling?" I like that. That sounds almost like something Smilex would come out with, but never mind. Anyway, we're back on board the Enterprise. And anybody ever get that feeling, is cheating hereditary? It must run in the family. So the plan's set in motion. The Enterprise is going to make a bit of a run for it. And there's an interesting scene in the director's cut where Kirk's telling Spock, "That young man, he's my son." And Spock just goes, "Fascinating." Like, so droll, as Spock does. So anyway, games afoot. We get another one of these nice graphics. For 1982, that is outstanding.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So what's a 9 Snave 6 that always made me quite curious, and a 2 Lean 8? Well, anyway, moving on. Enterprise makes a run for it. Anybody in the UK remember when electricity privatization was becoming a thing? There was a TV advert over here, which was a mishmash of this scene, with Scotty in the next gen engineering section, and Kirk gets beamed up and down, and his head's on backwards on a girl's body. Do you remember that advert?
I
Was
do
it for
remember
Power
that. Eon, I think it was.
And it was, it says, oh, we're having a meteor shower, and Scotty beams him down an umbrella, and he says, I didn't want to brolly you, Wally.
Wally.
It was very made for England advert, and it was so good. But it was so anybody who's a real fan would have noticed all the errors, because look, there's the Enterprise, the refit Enterprise. There's the next gen engineering section. And you've got all bits of Star Trek 2 and a couple of bits of Star Trek 5 mixed in there too. It was a proper mishmash of treks, but it was still a fun advert. There she is. There she is. Very Captain Ahab. He just, I don't know, he plagiarizes that to maximum effect. And it's so good. And I like it. That guy there, who's just come out of the turbo lift, in a later scene, when they enter the Mutara Nebula, he kind of tips forward and taps Ricardo Montalban on the shoulder, and he goes, "Uh-oh, I think I made a bit of a mistake there," because Ricardo gives him the filthiest of looks. But anyway, the Enterprise is making a run for the Mutara Nebula, and Reliance in tow. And I love this. This photon torpedo just narrowly avoids hitting the nacelle, and it shakes the ship, and these scenes here, they are so palpable. Did anybody, Gamer, what did you think at the time when you watched this? Could you feel the tension of the almost submarine like warfare feel, how claustrophobic and tense it was?
Oh, absolutely. And you just made a great point that it actually didn't dawn on me right away, that Khan giving up the white whale is great foreshadowing with the Moby Dick book earlier in the film. And, there she is. But yeah, the tension you feel here, because we know the Enterprise, is mostly crippled, and Khan's, got them. And really their only hope is they've got to get into the Mentari Nebula before they're hit, because then they've tipped the scales. So this is a very tense moment, especially back in 1982, because you're thinking, okay, it's the Wrath of Khan. Is this going to be it for them?
And there's also a bit of foreshadowing, because the Energizers bypassed like a Christmas tree. The Energizer's out, and the Energizer is pretty much the thing in this film, what makes warp drive possible. Because for those who get technical about Star Trek, know that the lattice frame that holds the dilithium crystals in the intermix chamber have been knocked out of alignment, right? That's why they can't go to warp speed, and that's why the Energizers are a bit screwed right now. Z, what did you think about the build-up to the battle scenes? Did you
absolutely immense?
Did you get that claustrophobic feeling?
Yep, absolutely. And also, you honestly thought everybody could die at this point. Anybody could. This was the Empire Strikes Back of Star Trek's.
It is. It's funny that it's the sequel to the motion picture. Empire at our stage was the sequel to Star Wars. So, yeah, there are some comparisons to be drawn there. Anything else you want to say about this particular build-up to the Battle of Mutara Nebula?
Did you see the movie Run Silent, Run Deep?
I didn't, but I saw Silent Running.
Well, it's a submarine movie from the 50s.
Oh, yes, that's what this is. This is getting its vibe from, if I remember now.
Been very much inspired by the chase of a submarine and a destroyer, and the hunt, and where the hunter becomes the hunted, and it's just really well done. The tension,
two skilled commanders on equal footing.
Yep,
it could go anyway at this point.
Yeah.
And everybody's on the edge of their seats at this point at the movies. And they start cheering when they head off toward the nebula.
What about you, Admiral? Hello, computer.
Yeah, no, I double mute when I'm not speaking, so that I don't have any stray noise. So sometimes I'm a one Mississippi late. First of all, I think that based on the way this torpedo shot was fired, Khan's Joaquin, who's been recast from Space Seed, says, they're going into the nebula. We won't, be able to use our sensors in there. And Khan's like, educate them. So this warning shot passing right under the, is it like through the strut but under the saucer section? It's so well put. I think that he's just like saying, come on, Kirk, where's your sense of honor? Because Khan is thinking like a 16th century man at this point. And that's going to be his undoing fairly soon. And this is, I believe he thinks he can goad Kirk into turning around and fighting him. So this shot might be a warning shot. I don't know if they're intending to hit him. But obviously this time it's going to be to the death. It is fantastic. It's done by pouring salt water into a freshwater pool, the Mutari Nebula effect. And it might have been named in the TOS series. Is this the Galileo 7's nebula?
Maybe.
No, it is. No, it's not.
Did that one just have the Mutari effect or something like that, right?
I don't know, but that photon torpedo narrowly missed the starboard nacelle pylon, and it just rocks the whole ship. But if you notice, the way it sort of like passed, it kind of curves, doesn't it, towards the bottom of the saucer section? And I like that because
Galileo was the Murasaki 312 nebula.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, that's why, by the way, Trev, that's why I feel it's aimed. It kind of like threads the needle between the saucer and the strut. I think Waqib is going to show Khan. It's like, I figured out these weapons, sir. I won't mess up again.
Yeah, but he's not at the weapons station. He's at helm, if you remember those scenes.
I don't see the value of
driver.
I don't see the value of a warning shot when you're already in a duel to the death.
Yeah,
you're not a super arrogant. You're not a super arrogant augment who doesn't want to be blinded in a nebula and wants to. He's kind of pouting like a child here. This is an arrogant thing. It's like, oh no, you're not going to go in there and get the advantage of me. And then he's like, sir, our sensors would be useless. He's like, F it, I want to go in there. Take us in. And he's like, slaps the guy and pounds his fist. He's determined.
The best way to stop them would be to hit the freaking ship then. So they can't go.
Right, but Khan has shown a propensity not to shoot to kill. He wants to drag this out. He's still not satisfied. Remember, with superior intellect and all that other stuff comes superior ambition and arrogance. He's not going to be satisfied doing a Braveheart to Kirk. Braveheart is going to get off easy compared to what Kirk wants to do.
In the script, it just says the torpedo misses. So I think that's the answer.
Manuel Grill says in the chat, we're beyond warning shots at this point, and I think that is a very valid point.
And we're beyond author's intent, I would agree.
I have been trying to keep up with you tonight, chat, but it's getting a bit touch and go in certain points tonight. But this is great because you've got this constant cat and mouse thing going off here. You've got you don't know who's hunting who because everything's off the table at this point. No shields, no tactical, no display. The odds are even. Sauce for the goose, Mr. Savick, and all that malarkey. But they're all basically taking pot shots at each other at this stage. And yet again, you've got this like really big resurgence of tension. There's nobody's got any advantage now.
And this is the point in the movie where the submarine can no longer use their sonar because it'll give away their position. So both opponents are using Dead Reckoning to aim their shots.
And this is quite interesting here because I've seen many arguments saying that inside a nebula you would find a white dwarf remnant, right? This is for the technical nerds. And a lot of people said, oh, well, it's a pulsar in there. And no, if anything was in there, that would be a rotating neutron star. But which it wouldn't be because you don't get those in those kind of nebulas, apparently. But anyway, Reliance done a 180, turning back at the Enterprise. And I love this when you just finally see that silhouette of the Reliant heading towards the Enterprise. Everybody in the cinema went, oh! And then Khan gets another slice of revenge. And I've noticed something here on this shot in particular. They were very subtle with the Aztec in here, but they did it on this model. But did a really bad job of removing it from the refit model from the motion picture. Why didn't they just leave the Aztecing on? I know it was a nightmare for lighting and for the cinematographers in the grand scheme
because
of things.
They would have had to replicate it for the Reliant, and they didn't have the budget.
I don't know, but look, they did a better job, a more subtle job of it there at ILM. because ILM didn't create the refit model of the Enterprise. That was a mishmash of a lot of different effects houses. Trumbull came and rescued the model in the long run. But this is a great scene here.
Yeah.
I love this scene where the phaser attack from Reliant hits the Enterprise, takes out the port side torpedo bay. And that poor guy, he is just toast, isn't he, in the torpedo bay? Because that fire, I know it was, on a close set and all when they did that because it was a practical effect, but still really hella risky, even back for 1982. Your thoughts, Esther?
Well, I wanted to go back to the nebula. A nebula is thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times less dense than the Earth's atmosphere. You can only see it because it's the size of thousands of solar systems. If you're actually in a nebula, you wouldn't even realize you were there. The density of it is essentially non-existent, only when you're looking at it from light years away, but it's sort of been a convention.
Yeah, it's a cumulative
science
effect,
fiction.
isn't it? A cumulative optical effect
Yeah. Now,
over distance.
this shot here actually, I think it physically hurt some of us
Yeah,
watching the movie to see that happen to the Enterprise. It was a shot right through the heart, like
Ashen Prism
metaphorically
says
and literally.
in the chat, the music in this scene is great as well, and I agree with that. Thank you for joining us, Ashen. It is Horner. He nails this soundtrack perfectly. It is, as Trek movie soundtracks go, this and Star Trek 3, for me anyway, personally, I think they are on par, if not equal, with the Jerry Goldsmith score from the motion picture. I know he did 5 as well, but not really. It wasn't really on par. Let's see, because Star Trek 5 is like the dollar store Star Trek. There's that guy I was talking about. I mean, when that kicked off, it wasn't a dummy. Obviously, it's a guy, a stunt guy doing a gig there in a fire suit and whatnot. But they torched the entire set, and it was petroleum gel. But look at that there. Obviously, it's venting plasma out the port side of the torpedo bay. But yeah, like you said, Esther, that scene did hurt.
Laura Banks mentioned that they sprayed all the actors with flame retardant chemicals. Just, and even the ones that were sort of around. So they were right there. They weren't on fire themselves, but they actually had to be sprayed down to be in the scene.
Hadn't they just set Michael Jackson on fire in a huge way weeks before with a similar bunch of pyrotechnics? Could that have figured in?
I thought that was hair lacquer, but that might be a different story for another time, Tig, to be fair. But this was a great bit of lighting as well, because in the some of the earlier shots, like the attack scenes and whatnot, there weren't any sort of like big reflections of light from the phasers. And some of the photon torpedo effects, but they were a bit hit and miss with some of the effects, but it's still great. But while they're inside the Mutara Nebula, they take full advantage of the diminished lighting. And look at that. That even for like 1980s, the lighting effects for that were well set up.
Yeah, Michael Jackson
were real cinematographers.
Michael Jackson didn't catch fire.
I think Wacko Jacko's a topic for another time, to be fair. Let's stick to Star Trek.
It was 2 years after.
But anyway, more pyrotechnics on set here. I mean, these real explosions. These guys knew it was coming, but still.
We're going to see these rocks in every Star Trek forevermore. We're going to see them in Deep Space Nine all the way through Enterprise. These rocks are coming back.
There looks a bit of heft in that piece of metal what dropped on Joaquin. But Khan, he just lobs it, no problem. Poor old Scotty, he's trying his hardest. Admiral, I've got to take the mains off the lane. It's radiation, Scotty. But this is the setup there, as you see in the background there. That is where the dilithium crystals are housed. Why aren't they actually in the warp core? That was just a silverback room. In fact, that room wasn't there in the motion picture. This has just been added for this particular movie. But still a great scene, great setup, great premise. But if anything, anybody knows anything about Star Trek, the dilithium crystals have to be inside the intermix chamber. But no, they use this as a bit of a, not a MacGuffin, but like a plot device for later. But we get to see Judson Scott's character Joaquin finally bite the dust. And isn't it interesting? His eyes are open when he goes down, and then Ricardo Montalban sort of hugs him a little bit. And then when he gets up again, his eyes are shut. But, you know, Judson Scott really did ham this scene up for all it was worth. Anybody else notice that? Z, did you notice that bit? It was like
No,
a panto.
I didn't. No.
It was like a panto dame in this scene here. He really does ham it up. Gamer, what do you reckon? Did you notice the overacting in this scene?
I don't know if it was overacting, but I love the line he has, the superior intellect. It's almost mocking in death,
Yours is superior. I shall avenge you.
Yeah.
I just love Ricardo Montalban's drawl here. But here we go. Chekhov's got the clean bill of health. Could you use another hand, Admiral, for nuclear vessels? That's another film. But
and I say no if I'm Kirk. I'm like, you know what, Chekhov, you've done a good enough job. You could go just down to the mess hall, have a drink, have some vodka. It's from Russia.
He's just basically set dressing, isn't he? He's just there for the sake of it, really. He was the Davy Jones character back in the day, and he's kind of
consistently our dumbest, and never has his own hair in anything he's in. He's never acted with his own hair.
Wasn't that a bizarre fact? He was secretly bald all these years. When they kept saying about Shatner, Shatner wears a wig, Shatner doesn't wear a wig. He didn't.
He doesn't?
He went broke on transplants. It's all growing real hair from every era of transplants from the 70s on.
But, you got to Chekhov there, Walter Koenig, brought in as the answer to Davy Jones from the Monkees. To get all the young girls excited about watching Star Trek. But no, he was secretly bald all along. And I like that fact. Even when he was doing Babylon 5, that wasn't his real hair. Anyway, Khan's flying this ship more or less on his own at this point, and it's just going around in circles. And he's just looking for any break at this point. And I love this because Kirk says to Sulu, Z minus 10,000 meters, and the ship just drops down. And then you get this really good build-up of the musical score from James Horner. It goes da, 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 and the Enterprise just rises up behind Reliant, and Chekhov gets to play with his joystick. And he pulls that little joystick out, doesn't he? And start firing photon torpedoes. And here's where the tables are finally turned. Kirk's using his experience against Khan's two-dimensional intelligence. He's got the mental process, but he hasn't got the experience. And that's what this is all about at this point. It's the experience in battle what wins the wars. Khan is super intelligent, but he just can't beat Kirk in this respect. And I never knew warp nacelles were as fragile as they were. But get a great shot of the warp core there. They actually used plexiglass, stained plexiglass, or frosted plexiglass.
You mean transparent aluminum?
There's tinfoil in there, yes, gold and silver tinfoil. And they actually had, for the motion picture anyway, they had a laser firing down and then spiraling around and whatnot and reflecting off everything to give it that pulsating look. But it's photon torpedoes away. And that's it. Oh, that nacelle's gone. Khan's toast at this point. The venting drive plasma. The order's given to surrender. But no, Khan's not going to do it because he's got an ace in the hole. He's got the Genesis activation key there. And he's going to use it. He's not afraid to use it. And then we get the Genesis device activation. If you notice on that shot, if you look closely enough on the edges, where the beams of light come out from the center where that aircraft navigation beacon is, can you see there's little hexagonal indentations in the light itself? That's the filter, that the mesh filter they used over the camera. So the camera didn't actually get damaged from the light coming off the beacon. I couldn't get the word out.
Right.
It's called
It was that
100
bright.
something you said earlier comes back to me, about the refracted light. I think perhaps they wanted the brightness, and they're like, everything was about the refracted light control. So even though they were like, look, we're stuck with the refracted light, like, okay, we can minimize it and we can make it artful rather than just using it to obscure a scene.
Well, the filter was used to great effect because that's why we get that 8-sided light effect coming out of it there. But when the CO2's light coming out of the device itself as it's getting ready to detonate, you get to see that effect, and it's just fantastic. But anyway, Genesis Waves detected. They've got to get out of there. They've only got impulse power. So, yeah, again, that book at the beginning of the film that Spock gives Kirk on his birthday, there's the sacrifice. And that's where this comes into play.
Right?
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. So while the Reliance vent in plasma, Spock's made the decision to go into the warp reaction chamber, which is flooded with radiation. No human can tolerate the radiation in there. You're not going in. As you're so fond of mentioning, Doctor, I'm not human. You're not going in there. Perhaps you're right. What's Mr. Scott's condition? And then it's Vulcan neck pinch time. And he says he's got no time to explain this logically. He takes Scotty's gloves and then he mind melds with him, which is the perfect setup for a sequel, don't you think, lads? Yeah. So anyway, Enterprise is trying to get away, and Spock realigns the lithium crystals. But I notice Scotty's out for the count, and then he's jumping around like nobody's business. There you can see that effect now. Can you see that in the lighting, lads?
Yeah, it's called a honeycomb filter, but the lens flare spikes are caused by the blades on the aperture on the camera lens.
So they had
the
some
lighting
control of
filter
that,
itself
are you
is shooting through a honeycomb.
Well, it really comes to the fore, doesn't it, when they've got the CO2 coming out of the thing as well. And then they've got closer shots on the Genesis device. So, yeah, again, like you say, they're using the honeycomb filter for maximum effect. And you can see the filter over the lens. Can you see it being diffracted there in the streaks of light coming off the beacon?
Yeah, but this was actually a bong they got from Cheech and Chong's movie.
It helped them write the movie.
Do you know what they said, Esther? What? There's no Dave here, man.
Dave's not here.
So distance to Reliant, 4,000 kilometers. And he looks at David Marcus, and Dave is like, no.
No, we're not
you're not getting away with this one. No, you can't get away. And here's where we get the iconic line from Hell's Heart, I stab at thee.
Yeah, Melville did say that.
But anyway, warp reactor is now repaired. Go Sulu! He says, bless you, Scotty, but it's nothing to do with Scotty at all. And that's when we get the best warp effect used in any Trek film. And this went on all the way through until the first act of Star Trek Generations. You know, like the oldie warp where you've got the trail coming off the nacelles and off the deflector. They did away with that for Next Gen.
Yeah, this is just gorgeous, man. And when they finally zip out.
Just in the nick of time.
Hey, man, that's pee.
Hey, it's almost like something you'd see in Galaxy Quest. If you remember from a few weeks back.
Yes.
Yeah, Reliant explodes, the Genesis waves launch. I find it funny, and something that always boggled me when I watched this the first time back in 1982. This Genesis wave, it's faster than Warp 1 because that's all they were doing at this particular point. And you see the Genesis effect almost enveloping the Enterprise while it's at warp. How far did this Genesis wave go? It was just going on for light years, wasn't it, at this point?
Yeah, well, almost gave us the size of a nebula, right? It sucks in maybe the singularity it has sucks in the nebula, and as far as we said there should be a white dwarf inside, perhaps there was, because we have we do have a sun.
It basically sucked in.
My impression. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it sucked in all the matter from the nebula, which
Mm.
used to be a star, and coalesced it into a planet because the Genesis device, it always is going to make a planet. That's its built-in matrix. So I guess it just takes whatever matter is there,
Well, it
and
makes
it's sort of
use
like
of-
a replicator.
Yeah,
and
it makes use of what it's got, hasn't it? You know, if it hasn't got a planetary mass there, it will perhaps, reach out and, like you say, draw in materials to actually create that. I mean, end of the day, it's a great idea on paper, but David Marcus, just like his dad, he cheated, he cut corners, he used proto-matter, a highly unstable product, and, that might come back and bite him in the arse later. But it's like engineering. Well done, Scotty. And then Bones comes over on the comm and says, Jim, better get down here. Better hurry.
A lot of nebula are remnants of nova and supernova, but some of them are coalescing gases that are forming stellar nurseries. So they don't all have dense material inside.
And I've got my facts wrong, and I will own up to this. The only time you will find a white dwarf is if it's a planetary nebula. There we go.
My impression here is that we were in, as was just said by Istophobos so well, this is possibly a stellar nursery, and maybe the Genesis effect wipes out a couple of the other nascent stars, and only one is viable.
Yeah,
That's
you never know.
I mean, this is a actually sciencey enough end of it. It's not Star Wars. The Force doesn't do this. There is okay. This is magic sci-fi stuff for sure. But it's a technical kind of magic. And at the end, what's going to happen is, it will be technobabble that people will be able to criticize. But on the other side of the coin, it's going to be very well calculated off things that we're familiar with, not to offend your common sense. They're in a nebula. And we had all heard about the stellar nursery thing. And just the last thing I'll say on this one as far as Trek and real science, every black hole in Star Trek is a wormhole, right? I mean, that's not the way it is in real life.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a black hole.
But
It's
that's
what
the
they use-
difference between science fiction and space fantasy. Everything here is based on something we know, and it's written by science fiction authors.
All I can say is,
Yes.
in future Star Trek, when we went on to the next gen and the like, thank God for Rick Sternbach, because he actually, him and Andre Bomanis, they actually knew their onions science-wise, and they researched, and they used stuff which was plausible, and that could actually happen in the future. But I just want to make a point of this. When Kirk turns around and notices that Spock's chair is empty, right, that there is a salient point. Emptiness, loss. He's not there. His right-hand man. His brains aren't there. His head and his heart are both in engineering. And don't! You'll flood the whole compartment. He'll die. Sir, he's dead already. And that is just such a great bit of acting from all of them. But if you notice, there's a guy, and he appears in Star Trek 3 as well. He's one of the midshipmen in engineering. He's like a strawberry blonde guy. If you pause the film and go back and forth a couple of times, it looks like they've arranged for the Admiral to have a bit of an early birthday present, if you know what I mean. Anyway, moving on. This
Talking
is
about the third individual who's holding him back that you cropped out of the picture very wisely, making it a better picture.
Yeah, but you get the drift of what I'm saying. If you go backwards and forwards on the DVD or whatever, it looks like he's doing something he shouldn't be doing. And, any port in a storm.
The idea was, I think it was Shatner said, you can't have just two men hold me back in this situation. I'm going to be losing my mind.
True. Z, any port in a storm, what are your thoughts?
It is one of the most touching moments in sci-fi movie history. I mean, we spent 3 years in an animated series with these guys, and to see one of them die, I mean, you heard the rumors at the start, didn't you?
Yeah, I would say heart-wrenching.
It was devastating. Because
at the time,
we all thought the fake out at the beginning was it.
That was the red herring.
Yeah.
Harv Bennett and Nick Mayer came up with the red herring because scripts were being leaked. And do you know who was leaking the scripts?
No.
Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry, yeah.
What a bastard.
Yeah, Argentum says, I cried at this scene even at 8 years old. And Atom Gray, I think it makes me cry more now than then.
Yeah, Adam makes a great point. I was kind of emotional through the scene, even though I know where it goes in the series.
Mhm.
It isn't like I don't know what happens to Spock, but it kind of was reminiscent of how I felt when I was a kid when I saw it for the first time. And watching it last weekend, I'm like, wow, I'm still kind of choked up about it.
Do you know
Yeah, and
something?
at the time, we didn't know there would be a Star Trek 3. We didn't know Spock was coming back.
Right.
And we didn't know if the movie was even going to make money. This could have been the last Star Trek thing ever.
Do you know, I think there's
I was pretty sure it was gonna be
rumor and
successful.
BS is quite useful in the film industry, because I think all along, Harve Bennett and Leonard Nimoy had planned all this out to begin with. You know, we'll kill you off, but we'll leave the door open. You've got the mind meld. In fact, I think that was added in.
That was added later. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what happened was when they finished halfway through filming, he was like, you know what? I do love working with my old friends again. Maybe I will play bass for this reunion band. You know, I'm part of this tour for a little while longer, but you're gonna have to let me direct the next movie. And they're
Yeah,
like,
and that
fair enough.
I think he missed the sound of the cash register noise going off in the back of his mind, to be fair. But
He saw this movie and knew it was going to be huge.
Yeah, it was. It was an absolute smash. It had a lot of competition at the cinema in that year. It was, like you say, you got E.T. and other big hitters in that year. And this had a
single-handedly
lot.
just makes Blade Runner fail because people are going to see Star Wars over and over. Blade Runner comes out the next weekend. Blade Runner starts to become relevant in August when people realize there's another movie. This movie was dominant to sci-fi fans, and it was a beautiful
97
film
million
that
at the
people wanted to
box.
see again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not go see this again?
This mind meld became a permanent part of Vulcan lore and a central plot point in many of the other series. They sort of create over that one thing, the mechanism to bring them back. They created an entire sort of Vulcan.
Well, we've had mind melds before.
No, but not
thing is what you're
not
talking
that you're
about, right?
carrying the soul of a dead person with you. We never had that. That's what
right. You're absolutely correct. I was confused.
Vulcan tradition.
Reads Ahead says in the chat, Shatner gets criticized for his acting a lot, but here and the funeral speech are awesome acting. Argentum also says, I think Shatner can do some incredible acting. The heartbreak he portrays at the end of the movie is like a gut punch, Atom says. Shatner doesn't get enough credit for his acting. He's actually pretty good. Yeah, anybody who's got TJ Hooker on DVD, well done. Skyfire says Shatner kept overreacting because Shatner. So Harve kept having him retake it until he got tired and gave a good performance. Yes, that is true. That's what he did. And I think Spock looks remarkably well, considering he's had a face full of warp plasma. That's exactly what it is. The actual EPS, the electroplasma, what makes warp drive and faster than light speeds possible. It's just such a high energy thing, and he did well. It's lucky he's a Vulcan, but this scene here is just so emotive and touching. Kirk has lost, for all intents and purposes, his best friend, also his head. McCoy is still the heart, shall we say. But Admiral Kirk, Captain Kirk, whatever moniker you want to label on him, he is three people, isn't he? You know, without Spock and McCoy, Kirk's nothing. You know, he's got the head, he needs the heart as well. I mean, fair enough, you've got all the extras like Scotty and Uhura, but they're never the holy trinity of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Well, and Spock's logic gives him balance.
Yeah, there is that. But this was such a touching scene. The whole scene of Spock's funeral. I mean, you've got Scotty on the bagpipes.
Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
This was so touching. And then you've got Kirk's speech about, of all the souls I have encountered on my travels, his was the most human. Yeah, he does go a bit seal in places. And you've got Kirstie Alley, she's shedding a tear as well. And the camera on the photon tube, come on. Nick Mayer, that is just sheer genius. That torpedo base set, that looks incredible. For 1980. Look, there's the struts used in the Klingon battle cruiser Amar from the motion picture off the bridge. Remember how we mentioned that last week? Do you remember that?
Yep.
They don't waste anything at Paramount. But
How
you
they
know,
do now.
well, that's a story for another time. Let's
The Star
continue
Trek
on.
people knew they had very limited cash from movie to movie. They spent most of their money on storage. They're like, look, we made it. We'll bring it back and we'll lend it out to other movies. Just let us keep it.
And there we go. The end of Spock's funeral. He's fired out, buried at sea for all intents and purposes, with his resting place being the new Genesis planet. And I find this, you've got Kirk dealing with the loss of his best friend, right? And then he sort of gets a bit of closure in the fact that David Marcus now knows that Kirk's his father. And, he can finally be a dad to the son he was told to keep away from. He could only view him and watch him from a distance and take a bit of an interest in his career, I guess. But he had to do it from that distance. He wasn't allowed because Carol Marcus, like she said, she didn't want her son following his father around the universe. And I thought this was just such a beautiful scene, a beauty shot of the Enterprise leaving the Genesis planet's orbit. And, it's happy. There's closure for them, Just, I don't know whether McCoy's there thinking, finally, I can be Jim's right-hand man.
Exactly.
Is there a bit of that there? Is there a bit of,
He'll never tell me I'm wrong again.
damn it, Jim, I'm number one now. But you've got this whole thing about Kirk. He doesn't feel old. He doesn't feel over the hill now. He's like, he feels young, like when the world was new. But he's actually quoting a book because Carol Marcus is going, oh, is that a thing? Something Spock was trying to tell me on my birthday. And you've got the main bridge crew there, you've got the reverse angle on viewer. And Jim's just feeling young. But then we get a nice setup for a sequel, possibly. And isn't it funny? The planet's magnetic fields were in flux. The tube soft landed on the planet. That is just such a great way to leave it open-ended.
What are chances of that happening, eh?
I know. And then you've got whatever that is. Obviously, the Genesis device is that good. It can make a son of some variety and still be in radius of be in the Goldilocks zone.
It's a miracle they hit the planet because they didn't go back just to bury him. They've kept going away from the thing. It should have It should have gotten sucked up in the gravity of the star.
Right.
Do you know what I thought?
The sun.
Yeah. Do you know what I thought was a missed opportunity in Next Generation or anything like that? Say like the Enterprise D and the Next Gen crew happened to be in the Mutara sector. And they could have flown through the remnants. Obviously, that would be an asteroid field in the 24th century. But wouldn't it be bizarre if it was called the Marcus asteroid field, in memory of David Marcus? Oh, you're probably just giving away the plot for the next film. I'm sorry if you haven't seen Star Trek 3.
Oh, spoilers.
Yeah, when you said it gets to be a father to his son.
Don't get too used to this planet, people. It's the Alderaan of Star Trek.
Yeah, don't get too used to the son either. He gets to be a dad for 10 minutes.
Planet Forbidden is Genesis.
It's not really life from lifelessness because, it becomes the reverse in the next movie. Franco says, I'm sorry, Franco. Spoilers, Trev. I do apologize. On that note, we're pretty much wrapped up for this episode of Trek December. Next week, I will give you a preview in just a moment. I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat tonight, especially, and I'm going to stick this back on the screen, to our Melv. It's his birthday, and he's chucked us some Pop Knacker money to help celebrate his continued existence. I hope you've had a fantastic day, Melv, and I hope, it continues to be so. I want to thank everybody on the panel tonight, Admiral Teague, Z3PO, Istophobos, and the Oldest Gamer. Some of us will be back next week. Some of us won't. Would you like a preview of what's happening next week?
What could it be, Trev?
I wonder. I'll tell you what, I'll play you the trailer for next week. Next week, Trek December continues with Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. This one divides fans. It had a bigger budget, more special effects, but is it a good Trek? We'll let you and the panel decide next week. Tuesday, 16th of December, 9 p.m. GMT, 4 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you don't miss out.